On Life Matters this morning, a very special guest. As part of NAIDOC Week, I'm joined by a voice and a face that you would probably be very familiar with from the Marngrook Footy Show, and that is Leila Gurruwiwi. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Robbie, and thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Let's get a little bit of background about your life. We know you from the Footy Show.
Yep.
But of course, your own life is really fascinating as well. Tell us about where you grew up.
Yeah, well, I was born at Gove District Hospital, which is in Nhulunbuy, which is the main township, and Yirrkala is one of the remote communities outside of Nhulun. And yeah, that's where I was born. I'm one of 8 children. 4 boys, 4 girls.
What number are you in?
I'm number 4.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm smack bang in the middle. Me and my little sister, we're the middle children, so to speak. And so I was born up there, and one of 8 children. And I grew up on Elcho Island, Galiwinku, a little community on Elcho Island.
Which Elcho Island's become very famous as well, hasn't it?
Yeah. That's obviously where Gurrumul's from, and also the Chookie dancers. Quite a few people know who the Chookies are, and of course the East Journey Band as well. Got connections there, and also Yothi Yindi and David Wurpanda. There's all sorts of kind of connections. Nathan Chikura, he used to play for Geelong as well. So there's all family connections there as well.
But you didn't stay there, did you?
No.
You travelled.
I did, and I travelled quite far away from there actually. When I was 18 months old, my mum and dad decided that they wanted me to have a better start at life, and I ended up going down with a guardian to live in Bendigo in Victoria, which is quite a step away from North East Arnhem Land.
Such a big move.
And that's where I basically grew up from there. Went to primary school and high school there and whatnot, and spent most of my life in Bendigo before I moved to Melbourne.
Did you go back home, northwards a lot as a child?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
That's probably how I kept, obviously, my connection with family and whatnot. And when I was really, really young, I actually had a cousin that lived with me in Bendigo. So for a really long time, I didn't actually lose my language, Yolngu, which is our traditional language. And but then he ended up moving back up to North East Arnhem Land, so I just stopped talking. But I've always been able to understand it. But now that I'm older and I'm an adult and I can go up whenever I feel like it. I'm also, kind of connecting all those dots again, which is very integral, I think, for me.
Well, it shows that you're very patient as well, because before the show you were trying to teach me how to speak some of the words and
that's all right.
Almost tearing your hair out at my pronunciations, and I apologise for those in advance. Why was it you that was chosen to head southward?
I have no idea. That's a great question. And when I do a lot of cultural awareness talks in schools down in Melbourne, a lot of kids actually ask me that question because, it obviously pops in their head, well, if she was one of 8, why was she the one out of all the 8 that got chosen? And, it's just one of those weird questions, and I answer them with, your guess is as good as mine, because I really don't know.
And what are your brothers and sisters, how did they respond to this, the sister who had grown up down south who would come back from time to time?
It's really funny because lots of people ask me that, and also ask me what it's like, having a home down here and a home up there and being so far away from home. But the thing is, I've never had it any other way. That's my life. That's how it's been since I was 18 months old. And it's the same for them. They've always known that I was down here, and every Easter, Christmas holidays, school holidays, I'd come up and visit. So it's not as if it's strange for us.
Yeah.
For other people looking in, it's kind of weird and all that sort of thing. But no, for us, it's just normal. And for me, it's obviously did really, really good things. And, I always say that mum and dad, like all of the other paths that I've led up to this point, all came about because of the decision that my mum and dad made when I was 18 months old, because I wouldn't be in the position that I am now if they hadn't have made that decision. So I thank them all the time.
Yeah, and it led to you to get into the media. Radio was the first step for you, wasn't it? How did that happen?
Well, I started doing radio training at 3KND under Grant Hansen, who's obviously the creator of the Marngrook Footy Show radio show.
Yep.
And basically it was just my way of kind of coming out of my shell, because when I was quite young, I like a lot of Indigenous kids, very, very extremely shy, didn't really talk to anybody. And radio was just, my vehicle of being able to come out of my shell more. And it was really good because sometimes I'd be able to do stuff without someone actually physically being in the room. And then other times they'd bring in random people and they'd sit in with me and I'd have to talk to them, obviously,
Yeah.
and all that. So I learned how to do all that. And yeah, so it really, really helped me.
Because that comes from a background, when you started school, you understood English, but you didn't really speak a good deal of English, did you?
No.
Which must
I
have been
didn't
really
actually.
confronting.
Yeah, well, the thing was, I'd heard it, obviously, back up
Yeah.
at Galiwinku because there's Shepperson College and there's quite a few teachers, not Indigenous teachers, that go up to work up there and they have children. So I would have heard it when my brothers were going to school, my 3 older brothers, but I didn't actually learn English. I only spoke Kakabingo, which is my mother's and my grandmother's language. And so I didn't actually physically speak English until I started primary school down in Bendigo. So when I went to preschool and play school and whatnot, all these little non-Indigenous blonde-haired, blue-eyed kids would come up to me trying to talk to me, and I'd answer them back in Yolngu, and they just look at me very bemused and perplexed at what I was saying, because obviously it wasn't the answer that they were looking for. But then my guardian came to school on my first day in prep and said to all of my fellow students that, Leila's here and, she really needs help. She doesn't know how to speak English properly. And how it really started was they just pointed at a whole bunch of stuff and I'd repeat after them what it was. And then from there it was actually reading and writing and whatnot. And because I spoke Yolngu and that was my first language, I actually grew up with a stutter, because English wasn't my first language. And so then they had to put me into a special reading program to be able to read properly. And it's kind of worked out for me in the sense of what I do now, and also it's obviously sparked my love in novels and books and reading and whatnot as well. So, yeah.
You love novels and you love books and you love culture and all those sorts of things, but you also love footy a good deal. Tell us about the start of Marngrook, the footy show. Went from radio to TV.
Yeah. It's been on radio for quite a long time now, but Grant Hansen started the Marngrook Footy Show radio show, and for him there was a very big underrepresentation of Indigenous players within the media at the time, not only on television but also on radio. So he just wanted to create an Indigenous show for us, a great way for media training as well, and a pathway for young Indigenous people like myself. And
you were into footy, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah.
I've always been into footy.
Yeah.
My dad played footy and all my cousins and brothers played footy. And when I was little, I was a bit of a tomboy and I played all sorts of sports. And my main aim in life was to be better than all the boys at sports. And I tried really hard and I was pretty good.
I'm told Francis Leach, who is occasionally on Radio National, and we hear him on other parts of the ABC, who loves his sport, loves his footy. He tells me you've got a pretty deadly drop punt, apparently. Is that true?
I'd hope so.
We'll talk about women in sport, Indigenous women in sport, a little later on in the program. But one thing that you've been experienced in is playing, women playing AFL. How rough does it get?
Oh, it's as rough as the men, really. There's no hold bars, no one holds back when it comes to Indigenous, not Indigenous, but just women in football. And, it was great that only a few weeks ago we actually celebrated Women's Round and we had the first national draft for women and also the first AFL women's match before the Melbourne Bulldogs game. And that was great to see that initiative was a part of Women's Round, and hopefully it's something that becomes a regular thing within the AFL ladder.
Yeah. You're listening to Life Matters this morning. Robbie Buck, joined by Leila Gurruwiwi this morning, my co-host on the program. And we've got lots of things to talk about over the course of the show, but a little bit of insight for you from Leila and some of her background. Of course, you would have seen her on the television, quite possibly on the Marngrook Footy Show. One person who has been very close to you, and we saw him on the telly again last night, was the late lead singer of Yothu Yindi, Mr. Yunupingu, who of course passed away just recently. Now, you're related to him. What was your relationship with him, and I guess your association with him as well? Because he was a very important man in so many different levels.
Oh yeah, he wore many hats within the Yolngu community, and then also with his teaching and also with the band Yothu Yindi, he ended up becoming that bridge between two worlds and becoming that educator. And he was my ngapapi, that's what I call him traditionally, and he's my uncle on my mother's side. And the thing that I always say to a lot of people when I was growing up, the two things that I wanted to be more than anything in the whole entire world was the next Kathy Freeman or a backup singer in Yothu Indie. And the reason for that was when I was 5 years old, that was in 1993. I was watching telly and I love music. That's another little part of my life that, and I absolutely love music. And I was watching Rage and Treaty came on, and it was the first time I'd actually seen that film clip. And it was the first time in my whole entire life that I saw anyone that looked remotely like me on television. And even at 5 years old, it sparked this thing within myself and that understanding of, well, if these people can be on television that look exactly like me. I didn't find out till later that they were related to me. Kinship's quite big and whatnot. And again, I was only 5 years old at the time, but I realised that if these people could be on television that looked exactly like me, then, I can do whatever I want in life. And, so it was something that was sparked in me at really quite a young age. And, and I always thank old man for giving me that belief within myself by being that person that I could look up to in that sense. And, if I can do a quarter of the things that he's done in life, I'd be very proud. And I've always been very proud of him and also Auntie Yalme, his widow and my auntie and all of his kids, his 6 daughters and his 6 grandsons. So, and they're going very strong at the moment, and obviously they had the memorial service and that was amazing. And it was the first time all the Yothu Indie band members were all in one place at one time, so they were all there to farewell their lead singer. So it was an amazing emotional moment to be there for sure.
Well, of course, he's left a legacy that's going to be felt for a very, very long time today, and sadly missed, of course. Leila, it's been such a great treat having you in on Life Matters. Thanks so very much for popping in and sharing some of your history as well with us today.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me.
We'll catch you on the television. You have a new project which is in the pipeline at the moment.
Yes.
Just very quickly, what's that about?
Oh, well, for a really long time I've been a presenter on television, but now I'm putting on my producer hat, so to speak, and I'm doing a show called Dance Off, and what it is essentially is a dance competition within traditional Yolngu communities in North East Arnhem Land. So, yeah, it's going to be quite interesting.
All right, and does that mean you'll have to be one of the judges?
No, I don't intend on doing that.
Okay, we look forward to seeing that on the telly as well. And, of course, you on the Marngrook Footy Show. Leila Gurruwiwi, thanks for joining us on Life Matters.
RN, your world unfolding.